Mike in Indio, California, listening on Sirius Satellite Radio, Sirius XM. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Hey, Tom, really appreciate your program. I'm a registered professional chemical engineer with a 35-year career in California and Texas, and currently involved in mining lithium from geothermal brines. I think you've talked before. But I wanted to make sure that in the conversation about the carbon tax, really what we need to be doing is charging energy producers for the real cost of their energy. And as you point out, the cost of the waste that the petroleum industry is putting out. But there's one thing that I'm very concerned about, and that is the Obama administration seems to be cuddling up to the nuclear industry because it doesn't have carbon emissions. And that is a very, very dangerous thing to do. I was involved in the Diablo Canyon protests back in the 70s with Jackson Brown. Yeah. And, I'm thrilled to see that the San Onofre plant is being mothballed and that PG&E or Southern California Edison is no longer going to be operating that plant. But there are so many better solutions for us.
I agree, Mike, and this has been, again, no president is perfect, no politician is perfect, and to even fantasize about such a thing is probably a big mistake. President Obama has, even back to his days in the state Senate in Illinois, always been a supporter of nuclear power. And I think it's because a lot of the electricity produced in Illinois is from nuclear power, and they've probably been supporters of his. I'm putting the most cynical spin on it, but I'm guessing that that's what it is. That's how politics works. The fact of the matter is that nuclear power plants actually do create enormous carbon dioxide emissions. They don't do it by fission. They don't do it in the process of boiling water for the reactor. They do it instead through the process using fossil fuels, of grinding up hundreds of thousands of tons of earth to extract a few tons of uranium, and then transporting that uranium, and that it consumes enormous amounts of fossil fuel, and then transporting that uranium to processing facilities which run on power generated by fossil fuels, and refining that down to fissionable levels of uranium, concentrating it down to below 3%, and then transporting that to the nuclear power plants, and then keeping that, after the nuclear power plants are decommissioned, keeping those core materials and waste materials cool for thousands of years, assuming that we're still using fossil fuels into the future. And the enormous amounts of concrete that go into the construction of nuclear power plants. A lot of mostly coal is burned to make concrete. And so my understanding is that a nuclear power plant doesn't start producing carbon-free energy until around its 8th to 10th year.
Yeah, that's when we do projects within our industry, we look at the total cost.
Right.
From design through construction, operation, and dismantling of a plant.
Right, because you have to pay to dispose of your waste.
Yeah. Now, I did want to propose, and, I don't want to seem like I'm off on the fringe, but there is a solution to our energy problems. And if we had a Manhattan or Apollo-style project to tap the Gulf Stream off of our eastern seaboard, there is more energy out there than we can possibly use, and it is a flow that is what is called the Coriolis flow, and technically you're tapping the rotation of our planet.
That's right.
And that is a flow of energy that can be used to generate electricity directly, brought to the eastern seaboard, put into the grid, used to hydrolyze water into hydrogen for a hydrogen economy, fuel cells for electric cars, high-speed rail. It just blows my mind that such an obvious solution, and this is not something that isn't mechanically engineered. Feasible from a mechanical engineering standpoint. As a matter of fact, you'd end up using some of the undersea oil rig technology that we've got, the wind energy turbine industry is well established and could be adapted to that energy production use. It just blows my mind that the the powers that be, the oil companies and our politicians, refuse to look at real solutions.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And two thoughts on that. Number one, yes, we could harvest energy from the Gulf Stream, and it would be, and it is using the power of the spinning of the planet. We could also harness energy from the rotation of the moon around the planet, which would be our wave and tidal energy. You know, just platforms going up and down on poles, following the tides and the waves, and you know, make the platform a giant coil and the pole a magnet, and boom, you've got an electromagnet, you've got a generator. And but here's the other thing: a cautionary note about the Gulf Stream: if if the Greenland ice shelf melts with sufficient rapidity, fast enough, it will dilute and cool the northern Atlantic waters to the point where the Gulf Stream, which originates thousands of miles out in the Pacific Ocean, and you know, where there's this giant upwelling and it's this warm area in the center of the Pacific, and then goes at more or less the surface, goes down underneath the coast of Africa, South Africa, loops around, comes up to the east coast of the United States, goes up the east coast for a ways, and then out in the middle of the Atlantic, just a couple hundred miles south of Greenland, there's like basically a giant whirlpool. I mean, you can actually, you know, there's photos of ships actually. There's certain times of the year you can actually see the dent in the surface of the ocean because it's hundreds of millions of gallons of water falling from the surface down to the bottom of the ocean, where it then traces the same circuit all the way back out to the Pacific at sea level. And the heat that it releases, which causes it to cool and fall, this is called thermohaline circulation. I'm sure you know this. The heat that it releases is the reason why why France, which is at the latitude of northern Michigan, has the climate of Tennessee. And you know, and if that Gulf Stream were to stop, then Europe would be thrown into, at the very least, a perpetual winter, and at the worst, another ice age. And the evidence is quite strong that if the Greenland ice shelf melts, it will stop the Gulf Stream. So there's a cautionary tale for you, Mike.
I find that hard to believe, given the forces of the rotating planet and the conservation of momentum issues with the Coriolis force. But
check it out. There would be other currents that would be established, but that particular current, it depends on the salinity and the temperature of the water at that particular latitude. And that, if that changes dramatically, I mean, it'll happen someplace else, but it won't happen there. So, and I can tell you, the Europeans are very, very concerned about this. There was a kind of campy Hollywood movie made about it called The Day the Earth Stood Still, and it's based on that science. Mike, thanks for the call.